Yes, please do record it for sure.
Yes, welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to episode 385 of Astrology Unplugged. To the YouTubers out there, thank you for tuning in. And for the people here, every Thursday, you can join us every Thursday. The link is on starself.com, so please go there. It's free to everybody, and we have a good time here. I have to say, we always have a good time here, no matter what the topic is, and that's great. Tonight, we are going to be going over some interesting and intriguing charts for these times that we're living in, that we are experiencing as a whole, as a collective, as a nation. With everything going on, it'll be interesting to see what is going on in the charts of, not necessarily what's going on, but what Kamala's chart looks like, Kamala Harris and JD's chart. We'll take a look at those. And if we have time, we'll go over two exceptional charts that I think deserve their own show. But if we have time, we will certainly go over Taylor Swift's chart and Simone Biles, who are, I think, they're just two very powerful women, very, very powerful women that, I admire them. I'm not a Taylor Swift fan. I'm not a Simone Biles fan, but to look at what they do is really impressive, really impressive. They're aware of their power. But who should we go with first, Kamala or JD? Okay, all right.
Go ahead and unmute yourselves.
Jay who? Oh, Vance.
JD Vance.
Yes. All right.
What about the bad news before the good news so we can get it over with?
Whatever. So does that mean JD?
That's my vote. I don't know what anybody else wants.
Let's see who's coming up first on my solar fire. Actually, you know what? It chose for me because for some reason I had his chart pulled up first. So we'll just go with it. Yeah, but we will definitely, absolutely go over Kamala Harris. Definitely. So JD, and you know what? I told Rick this afternoon, Rick C, my partner in crime, I know very little about politics. I do not know a lot about any of these people, except I know their names. I know that Kamala Harris is the vice president. So sometimes it's good to know little because I'm not as, I want to look at this astrologically and really be as open, unbiased as possible. The fact that he's running with Trump, already kind of tells me something. However, I'm not very versed in politics at all, but we're going to look at the astrology of this person. So if you can see my screen, we've got a Leo with a Leo rising. So that's a lot of Leo already. However, we have it in the 12th house. So we have a sun in the 12th house.
And the ascendant at the 29th degree is pretty powerful energy to bring forward as a Leo.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you all know there is I think it's the fixed star Regulus is on the 29th.
That is correct.
Of Leo.
And I think that may be the very same degree of ascendant that Trump bears.
Yeah, I think he's at 28, but it's close enough.
Yeah, they're both conjoined.
Oh yeah,
regular.
I mean that's it's said to be the royal star. But put that aside, it's unique because we have the sun, so it's already your identity and yourself in the house of all the way in the back, right? So all the way in the back, what does that tell us? There's a lot more to this man that he doesn't really let out. I don't know if that's the right word. He can be private, possibly. And I only say that too because he's got a couple of Scorpio planets. And I think Scorpio planets can be very private. One can say private, or one can say deceitful. You choose. And at different scenarios, that'll be expressed differently. In fact, he does have Saturn square his son. That to me, that can give him a certain kind of discipline, of fortitude, but also, this wanting to strive for something, to want to really make his mark, because I think when you have Saturn influencing your son, it can't be helped. You just feel like you've got to overcome it somehow. Subconsciously, you feel like you've got to overcome it.
It also includes a friction with authority when it's a hard aspect.
Yes, and I have to be honest, I saw the movie Hillbilly Elegy. I don't remember it, but I remember liking it. I remember thinking, wow, what an underdog story, a rise to success story, which we can definitely see. I didn't read the book, and I wish I remembered more of the movie. But I don't remember there being a father in the picture. So that can tell you something about Sun square Saturn right there. So we also see that he's got the moon in Libra in the second house. That can be really, he can say the right thing at the right time. He can be a really, he can play social chess. And he can be really just very, presents himself very well, just as being able to really talk to people.
Although where that 19-degree moon in Libra is going to make a more diplomatic communicator,
Mm-hmm.
it is opposite Eris at 16 degrees Aries.
It's weird. I don't know why my solar fire should have that line. That's really, I need to look at that. That's such a strong aspect, right? Eris opposing the moon. That's
Eris is perhaps forgotten with solar fire, just given a wink and a nod to be included.
So what else do we see? We see Saturn in Scorpio. We see Mars right by the nadir. I would call that very close to the nadir. That's
I agree.
yeah. Oh yeah. And that, just knowing a little bit about his story, I could see how that, he grew up in a very contentious home, a lot of unrest, a lot of, you could say even abuse, but just neglect and just not a good situation. But Mars in Scorpio is, I don't know how to say this.
It's willing to fight to the death.
Well, yeah, yes. And it can do it no matter what, and it can be cruel about it, and it will do whatever the hell it wants to do or needs to do. So those.
And there's also a square to Venus. So there's a friction over the desire and the want.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen him speak at all since all this happened. I wonder how, well, actually, now that you say that, my daughter came in today, just now, and she goes, JD, she talked about the JD Vance comment about him, about the, being a cat lady and not having children. And it kind of makes me think of what you just said, Mars square moon, Venus. Venus in the 12th house to me also, it's like private affairs are really
Common.
Maybe prominent in his life at some point. because I am who I am and Rick is who he is, we noticed the North Node. And I talked to Rick about this, and now, you know, the North Node is, Jupiter is crossing over that house right now. Which is, to me, it says to me, this guy is, I'm not saying anything about the election. I'm just saying there is this feeling of his time is coming. I mean, he's about to turn 40 years old.
It's a
And so-
highlighted focus for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, big time. The Mercury in Virgo does square his node, which is another thing I wanted to mention about watching him speak. I've never really seen him speak, but I wonder how his communication is as far as him being able to express himself in a way where he doesn't put his foot in his mouth. I don't know.
Can I go ahead and bring a little highlight to that? The 11th house ruler being Mercury, and the 6th and 7th being Uranus with Aquarius on the cusps, definitely suggests that his speaking getting in the road and being criticized for the way he might communicate would affect large groups and work. It would hit that area.
Yeah,
Because Mercury is in this T square,
right.
the Chiron nodal conjunction
It
opposed to
becomes
Uranus.
pretty prominent, you know. Yeah. I mean, you know, probably a very smart Mercury in Virgo. That's a smart fellow. That's a smart placement of, well, it's in its home placement. And with the North Node in Gemini, I feel like that makes a really smart person. This to me, Scorpio over here is strategic. I definitely, you know, I'd like to see more about how he ends up speaking, communicating to bigger groups and what that looks like. So there was something, oh, you know what I noticed? So is anybody here familiar with profections? Profections, not perfections. So it's something I've looked into lately. And what it is, it's basically like a Hellenistic technique where each year of your life is ruled. I should pull up a wheel. There's a wheel. You can look it up. Just Google perfection wheel. So let's say this guy's about to be 40 years old. Each year is ruled by a house. So the 40th year, which he's about to be, is ruled by the 5th house. And the 5th house for him is ruled by, his 5th house is Sagittarius on the cusp. So it's ruled by Jupiter. And Jupiter is in Capricorn. So like it's making sense as far as the focus for him, the being like higher, more attention on this government, this high place for him at this point in his career. You know, I wanted to take a look at more of like his, you know, what eclipses are hitting him, what transits are hitting him, and I didn't do that, but we can certainly take a look at other ones if we want to look at like his solar return, which we can take a look at. But let's see. Is there anything else that calls our attention to this? So basically what I wonder about JD is his whole identity. To me, actually, let me bring up his 12th harmonic, because we talked about this afternoon, and I think it might give us some more color around his identity. The identity as far as, does he know who he is?
I think that's also relevant to the Sun-Saturn square.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I didn't know that he had all these names. apparently he's had all these names, which is a really literal,
Confusion of who you are.
yeah, it's like a really literal way of expressing that. Who do I want to be now? Because then he's changed it a bunch of times, apparently. So this is his 12th harmonic. The first thing I noticed with this 12th harmonic is that he's got a really nice trine. Pluto, the moon, Uranus. And we could include Saturn in that if we wanted to. This is, you know, a guy that's got, this chart has Pluto rising, Pluto close to the ascendant. This could be somebody that will rise to power at some point. And, you know, here's the thing about this evening. I'm, you know, we're just looking at these charts. We don't know how this is going to play out. And I certainly can't tell you if this is going to pan out well for him or not. I just see that the potential for this person is, it is something that I could see that he could rise to more power. Whether that means is a VP, I don't know. What do you all think? Linda Jordan.
To listen to what he says when he talks, and they
We lost about all of what you just said, Erica. You were cutting in and out.
sorry, it must be my earbuds.
Oh, there you go. That's
Um,
better.
If you listen to how he talks, you might get a better idea of the man at the moment, going
Yeah.
through all his different changes. I wasn't aware that he had changed his name many times.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I know he's married to an Indian wife, Indian ethnically heritage,
Mm-hmm.
who is a Democrat, which that kind of blows my mind based on what I've heard him say too.
So she's a Democrat?
That's just what I've heard. I haven't read it
Interesting.
anywhere. I've been hearing things because all of this happened so fast with
Yeah.
Kamala and everything, and with him being chosen. But the things that he says are unbelievably awful. And I
Really?
think Donald Trump is going to want to jettison him as fast as possible because he's a terrible liability to him. Because he's so awful in the way he treats and talks about women.
Really? Well, okay, so
Linda had some things she wanted to share too.
yeah.
Well, if you think about the birth chart, the sun, that sun in the 12th house, I think that he hides from everybody else and he hides from himself. I think that he's hollow. Like, I don't think there's any there.
Mhm. Mhm.
When he first came on the scene, he was anti-Trump. And now, of course, he couldn't be any Trumpier. And looking at that 12th harmonic, with Pluto, is it rising?
Yeah.
Rising?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then Neptune on the other side, right at the very end of the 12th
Yes.
house.
Yes.
He actively hides things from people. But the Pluto, I think, also connects with his links to the plutocracy, because he's largely a creation of what they call the tech bros that got him writing that book, got the book published.
Okay.
He wrote a big blurb for that project 2025. I mean, he's deeply into that world. That's his world.
Oh.
And
Okay.
so the scorpionic aspects of his chart, don't surprise me. And the fact that, what is it that opposes Eris in his chart? I
The
can't.
moon, I think. Let's look at it again.
Yeah, the moon. It's the moon, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I read that book. It's been a long time. It's,
Mhm.
and I had a hard time with it because I kind of study the Appalachian area because I'm from Western Pennsylvania and we're sort of the tail end of that here. And and I'm really interested. I have a large collection of working class kind of literature, and I was shocked at how dismissive and unkind he was often to people he didn't see as working sufficiently hard or being you know being as he would like them to be. So
Really?
yeah, he's pretty, so I'm kind of coming at this with outside knowledge, but that opposition to Eris suggests to me a lot of problems emotionally with the ideas of equality. I think that that's one thing he does not believe in. I do not think he believes that people are equal, and in particular, women. In particular, women. I mean, the idea they had today there was something going around on politics Twitter, if you will, whatever our
Uh-huh.
act call it today, about something he had said that childless people should not have political power because we have no skin in the game.
Mhm.
Like unless you've produced a baby, I'm like, that's why Kamala Harris shouldn't be running for office. That's why, this person and that person and the other person that he doesn't approve of, you
Right.
have to be reproducing.
Mhm.
I think there's many secrets that are going to come out about him because people are looking very deeply into what he's up to. So, because it's just natural. You're a vice presidential candidate, and
Right.
people are going to start digging. But I think secrecy. I think the lack of fixed identity. The fact that he doesn't want people to know who he is. The fact that he keeps changing his name. I mean, I should talk. I've been married, divorced, dropped names and stuff, but I always come back to the original one.
Yeah, no, but I think you're right. In that, I sensed that, and there it wasn't exactly from this chart. I don't know what else we were looking at, but it felt like he doesn't know who he is.
Well,
And
we looked at the sixth harmonic as well.
yes, I felt like he doesn't know who he is, and maybe there's a sense of either definitely deception, for other people and himself. But maybe now that I think about it, maybe there's a sense of shame for him. There's some shame story going on. I just noticed that the eclipse was exactly opposing his moon in April. That's a pretty big deal. I'm looking at my little list here of all the eclipses coming up and seeing if anything is significant for him. But I think you're onto something, Linda. I don't think that is, I think it could be very, very true. And it's just getting started. We only have a few months till the election, but you know how things are quick nowadays. I think we are going to find out a whole lot more. I mean, unfortunately, I think that happens it doesn't matter who you are. But Scorpio hides stuff. It's in their nature. Even if it's not a bad thing, it's, it is in their nature because it comes easily to them. They may not even see it as anything
I think,
devious.
quite honestly, they find that they expect people to know certain things because of their loyalty to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they believe they're known oftentimes by their character.
Yeah.
Because it is very constant. It is fixed. And it's usually has the capacity to really rise above. Pisces is much more of a delusional space.
Yeah. Yeah, I could.
That's where Neptune ends up getting to be concerning. And that Neptune Pluto conjunction by the ascendant in the 12th harmonic that Linda was alluding to is
Mm-hmm.
definitely opportunity for him to have really felt a lot of great things about himself, but not have the substance to bear up.
Yeah. There's some sort of like this right here, this can be a really wonderful place. This can be wonderful in another chart right here. Neptune conjunct Jupiter
I'd feel much better if they were both
in
in
the
the
same
same
in
sign.
Sag maybe, or in the same sign.
Just in the same sign would have
Yeah.
been nice.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of Capricorn Saturn connections between people. Like one's a Saturn, one's a Cap.
Uh-huh.
And it really creates friction, that particular, because there's so much freedom wanted by, valued by the Sag.
Mm-hmm.
And there is so much structure embodied by the Cap that there is a natural
Maybe
friction
that's the
there.
problem, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this tendency for him, thanks, Rick. The other Rick just sent me a message. So the moon is peregrine, he's saying, and it's true, except we did notice the opposition to Eris, but perhaps that is, it's too much of an outer planet. I don't, it's funny, he's got a moon in Libra, right? So you would think this person is diplomatic and
Collaborative.
yes. But if you look at the ruler of his midheaven, it's Venus, and it's squaring his Mars. It's not going to come easy for him, or he's going to be
And the fact that
really
it's peregrine
scrutinized. Yeah.
leads you to think he doesn't know how to incorporate the better qualities of that energy.
No. You know what? Do you go ahead?
Hey, Linda.
I was just gonna say, I'm a Libra and I know a bunch of them. That's why I don't date Libra men because oftentimes they're shallow.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't, you know, I don't, I mean, I don't, you'd have to have the rest of the chart to see, you know what I mean? And you'd have to have a good sense of that energy. But a man who doesn't have an identity, a firm identity to have the moon in Libra, you know, I wouldn't go out with him. I'm just saying.
So interestingly, let me share my screen. So I just pulled up his solar return, and I kind of had to assume that it was in Washington. He could be anywhere in the country campaigning, but I just put it in Washington. And here we have activity in the 12th house again. We do have Pluto near the midheaven. Uranus rising. I mean, I don't know how long this has been in the works. Uranus just crossed over his natal midheaven. It's at 23 degrees. Currently, I think it's at 26. And I don't know how long Trump took to decide when this happened. But it's
Yeah, it's interesting that solar return shows the Uranian position the same time Trump was shot at.
That's right. Yeah.
Because he has the 24-degree midheaven, and Uranus was at 26.
Yeah. So, and Uranus in the first house, I don't know. It's almost like with him, how interesting that I don't feel like I get a good grasp on his chart. And I don't know if that's because it could be me or it's because I don't know if he has a good grasp on himself.
I would venture to say The difficulty to find a grasp on his chart is probably because the individual does not have the capacity to have a grasp of himself. And what we're seeing in the different conflicting possibilities of the chart interpretation is something that he has struggled with
Mm-hmm.
as far as how it lives out in his life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's made it so difficult for him to know thyself.
It will be, because he's 40 years old. He's has a couple of decades left in his career at least. We're gonna
But he's
see.
only now dealing with the energy of the Uranian opposition.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
And that's more defining than the first Saturn return.
yeah. So this will be a really
He's
quick
a young
4
pup.
months. He's a young pup for sure, which is
I was just thinking with his son in the 12th house and that lack of boundaries, that he could be open to some of the collective consciousness out there of the angry people that follow Trump and have all of these grievances. Their whole thing is only about grievances.
Very
he's
interesting.
kind of tuned into that.
Well, being in the 12th house and have no boundaries, yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's the house of collective consciousness.
Yeah.
And being a Leo, he's constantly recreating himself. This is the different names, maybe he's had different haircuts. He looked completely different without a beard. I mean, I couldn't believe him. He looks much tougher and more threatening with the beard. Before that, he had this round face, a really friendly looking guy, country guy, Now he looks like a tough guy,
Right. Somebody's
So
been
he's
coaching.
constantly trying things out as Leos do, being the teenagers that they are, and look what I can do. I'm going to prove myself now. And for some reason, I still have to look up and see if he really is married to a woman that's a Democrat and ethnically Indian, because that's really hard to see how that marriage is working.
Right. I kind of thought the same thing. It's very, the only thing I know about that is that I think they were in school together, but that's about it. And I could be wrong about that too, but I thought somewhere I read that they went to Yale together.
Deborah shared an interesting concept. She's describing him as a. Do you want to just voice it since it went off screen? Your mic is available for you to just say it.
Oh, well, I think he's a man who fits whatever situation is of the moment and the opportunity. So I think he's more of a shifter. Couldn't get that out. Shapeshifter.
Yeah,
So
the Pluto experience energies that I see with him almost look like he does he finds himself facing shadow work. I'm not saying he does it.
Yes. Right.
I'm saying he faces it. He gets into the space where he needs to do it.
Yeah.
Does he do it? I don't know. But it seems like there are so many things pushing him and pulling him in different directions. It is very difficult for him to know himself. So why wouldn't he simply fit the situation? He has the flexibility to see several sides to a situation, but that doesn't tell you where he's going to end up.
I don't think so.
I don't know that he can
decide.
No. Well, so here's my take on that. If you had somebody that was like this, how we see right now, but had a spiritual desire to transform, that's that you can have somebody that has these like dubious planets and conflicting energies, and I think you can do that with spirit, but I don't think that's him. He's in a world of anti-spirit.
So that brings to mind an interesting, simple bit of wisdom that I saw recently, and and bear with me. The empath and the narcissist both survive childhood trauma. The empath chooses to find a path of love and not allow it to destroy them, while the narcissist chooses not to allow anyone to ever hurt them again, so remains in a space of ego. And I cannot help think what you were describing, Claudia, leads me to suspect he felt a trauma, and the question now is, did he respond with love or fear and hatred?
Right.
Does he continue to wrestle?
He's gonna have
That
yeah,
would be in the middle.
in about, I don't know, at least a few years, he's gonna start to feel that Pluto opposing his sun. And that could be a really key time for him if he were to call on the right power, the right power within himself.
Right.
I don't
You
know.
know, Neptune can give you incredible insight that you can surrender to, or it can give you incredible delusions
Uh-huh.
that you can hide from yourself and from the world. So it is all dependent upon the choice made by the individual.
Well, and that's why the 12th harmonic is so important, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you know, Rick D always takes us to the 12th harmonic, and like, what did he choose to come to this life with? And he came, it's like it's almost at the end of the house too. I mean, it's not in the middle or something, it's almost at the end. And he, you know, he could be like deeply, you know, into his inner mystery, if you will.
Right.
You know, but rather he's like changing his identities. And I don't mean just changing his name, but like trying
Sure.
out, you know, it's like an actor looking for a stage name.
Mm-hmm.
Like an actor looking for a stage name. And then like, how, I always wonder, how do they keep themselves straight? You know, am I Todd Smith or am I LL Cool J? I mean, how do you know who you are? You know, and I don't, you know, but that, I think that's, you know, it's like,
What you just said, Linda, is
yeah,
is
that whole Neptune thing, you know.
yes. But I just noticed too this struggle between his sun and the North Node in his 12th house. How do you know who you are? The values that you hold in Taurus and your identity, you know, because I know nobody has to tell me, nobody has to remind me of what is right for me or what is right. Nobody has to tell me, well, don't steal. You know, you really shouldn't lie and don't steal and don't. I just don't do those things because it's not in me. But he has this question mark around
Well,
it.
I think you can actually, you know, I'm not a chart reader, but I did a little homework on him. He wrote a book, but there doesn't seem to be a second book in him. So is he really an author? Then Peter Thiel, a guy named Peter Thiel, saw promise in him and put him in, I think, Goldman Sachs or one of those kinds of jobs. Didn't last long. Then he put him in another job, I think in tech. If I might be wrong, but that didn't last long. And then the opportunity to run for the Senate came up in Ohio. So Peter Thiel financed his whole Senate campaign and he won, and he has only served a year and a half. He is like a ping pong ball, or, you know, in a pinball machine. I don't think he's had a chance to figure out what he's good at even.
You're
So,
bringing up something that makes me think of a Gemini energy that I kept feeling from him, where they're getting a smattering here and there. And I'm looking at that Neptune Pluto thing thinking, is this the angel on one side, the devil on the other, and he's so split in the middle, he's going to go ahead and flip a coin.
well, and I wonder if there is something inside him too. His, like, you know, well, I didn't last in at Goldman Sachs or wherever. I didn't last here. I've only been in the Senate for a year and a half. I'm not really good at anything, and now he might be feeling like, holy what did I get myself into? Am I really a vice president? Could I really handle that job? So he just echoes the campaign lines that mirror Trump. So he's mirroring Trump everything he does. So I look at it psychologically.
And Peter Thiel, that whole
Yeah.
that whole cabal that's involved
Right.
in that, you know,
And yet I grew up in an Ohio suburb and I spent time in the Appalachias, but I don't think he knows who he is. So to some extent, maybe you see that in the chart and it sounds like you do. And
Yeah.
makes it a little, if I hypothetically were a gung-ho Republican, I might think like, who am I voting for? You know,
Yeah.
so anyway, are we going to look at Kamala today too?
Yeah, let's go ahead
We
and
are.
switch gears.
Yeah,
We're kind of
basically, I
getting
think we've
late.
got this guy.
Do you
I'm
want to
Yeah.
put
looking
some
for
pause
Kamala
on the
and
recording?
measure her up.
Let me take
All
one.
right.
I can't keep my mouth shut this time.
Please.
Give me the natal chart, please.
Okay.
I thought you all did an excellent job. I've been listening. It's a very difficult chart to do. Here's how I see things. Tell me if I repeated you. This guy is a Leo. Okay? He's got Leo, he's a double Leo. All right? So we know all the temptations there. He's got the same thing Claudia has with a strong Uranus opposite Chiron. This time it's a T-square to Mercury and Virgo. So the Mercury and Virgo is extremely powerful. This guy is a capital M-A manipulator. Capital, big time. Now, the problem with the chart is with the moon in Libra and with the sun and with Mercury in Virgo, and even with the planets in Leo, the only thing that softens this chart up is really the Jupiter Neptune, because you can't trust the moon in Libra to soften it because it's just too weak. The Jupiter Neptune is a very good sign, but can he handle it? Can he handle cosmic, deep spiritual thought? I don't think so. I think that what you are missing, and I think that it's true here, he is a manifestation of the times. You got to take a look beyond the personality here. He's a manifestation of ugly America. Okay, so what's going to soften him? Well, nothing softens him. And then you put Mars, Saturn in Scorpio, and you got somebody who's vindictive, and you got somebody who's revenge seeking, and you can't trust this guy. And as far as what Rick was saying, this guy can't even trust himself.
Mm-mm.
He's all an act, but he's a real good one. That Mercury in Virgo is very, very, very highly skilled. I'll
And
go
29
away.
degrees Leo is certainly theatrical.
Yeah, I'll go away now. See y'all.
okay.
We loved
Oh,
having you.
Thank
yeah.
you. Yeah, so he can say he can say the right thing. Cause he can, it's almost like what Deborah was saying, what suits the moment. Go ahead, Susan.
I just want to say when Eisenhower was president, he used his Secretary of State, Allen Dulles, as what he called his lightning rod. Whenever he wanted to rile people up or have something nasty said, he sent out Allen Dulles to say it.
Good
And
point.
while it's true that Trump has never shied away from saying anything nasty, he might be pushing the envelope with regard to a minority and female presidential opponent, and therefore he might want to send somebody else out to say the worst of the stuff. Just a thought. That might be his whole purpose.
Well, yeah, I was actually, you were kind of reading my mind because I was wondering, what is Trump thinking? What is he thinking when he chose this guy? Because at the end of the day, it's got to serve Trump. It's not going to serve the country necessarily. It's going to be what's in it for me. That's
Well,
just my take on what
he
I
certainly
think.
thought that Biden was going to be his opponent.
Oh, we lost you.
Certainly thought Biden was going to be his opponent at that moment when he chose him.
Right.
So he's so angry now that he's chosen him, and all of a sudden the cards got switched on him, and now it's Kamala against him.
Yeah.
With whoever she chooses for vice presidential nominee.
See,
So
it could have been Vance going up against Harris directly.
Yeah. Yep.
Speaking
And they
of-
were hoping for that.
debates.
Yeah. So here we have a very different personality. She's actually just gone through her second Saturn return. She's 20 years older, and she is she's a Libra with a Gemini rising and moon in Aries. I sense that Aries energy in her, that an Eris, which, by the way, you know, there's a couple of eclipses really, like the eclipse that's coming up in October. It is exactly on her Eris. And
Is
then
it on the Eris or opposed?
I'm sorry, it's opposed the air. No, wait a minute. It's opposed. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. And so we've got somebody that's got Saturn pretty much in the midheaven. It's very close to the midheaven in Aquarius, which
Opposed to Mars.
opposed to Mars. I mean, she's a tough lady. She can handle some stuff. You know, this is not somebody that shies away from difficulty. The ruler of the chart is
Mercury.
it's Mercury in Scorpio. So she can have that, she can have a sharp tongue if she wanted it, and she does. She can definitely bring it out. There was another
But as a Libra, she does it tactfully. I mean, she
Oh my
doesn't shoot
gosh.
her.
She's
She doesn't
so
ruin
good
it
at
for
it.
herself. Yeah, yeah.
She's very good at it. Sometimes I watch her, and I don't watch this a lot, but just when I've seen her snippets, she can kill you with words, but she can do it so
And a
politely.
few words. Yeah.
Yes, she does. Yeah, she sure does.
She has the finesse, I think you see.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Something else that we were thinking about earlier, that chart ruler of Mercury is disposited by Pluto, and Pluto is a part of that powerful conjunction with Uranus that gave us the protest movements of the 60s and the flower children and wanting to go ahead and transform society. So those people born under that end up carrying that to some degree with them throughout their entire lives. And that seems to be something with her justice elements that are very important in different parts of Kamala's chart. Saturn in the 9th house,
Yeah,
very much connected to the law.
yes. There was something else we noticed this earlier. There was something else, maybe it was Jupiter squaring the Mars, where she is able to really work her ass off for what.
Well, there's a
she
grand
wants.
trine there with the ascendant North Node,
Yes,
trine Sun, trine Saturn. With Saturn, the disciplined Aquarian nature in the law being catalyzed by that kite forming Mars.
mm-hmm.
Can I ask you experts, I'm taken by the activity in her 4th house, Uranus, Pluto, and is that
Venus.
Venus? And then those things are opposite her Chiron in the 10th. What does that mean? Help me understand how to see that.
So we have
That-
the ruler of her chart is Mercury. Also ruling the Mercury also rules Virgo, and it's right in the middle of that 4th house stuff. Pluto in Virgo. I think, and it's opposing Chiron. All that is opposing Chiron.
I mean, Chiron is in
Me-
Pisces.
Yes.
Yes,
But to
I would
me,
suspect you're going to see playing out in the public sector,
right.
where the 10th house Chiron is, the tension and the friction of opposition to Uranus. So there was probably issues of identity. Pluto, the feeling of, do you have the right to live? Do you have to fight to go ahead and maintain your livelihood? And how do you need to transform to survive? And then with the Venus, how do you decide you're going to embrace and appreciate and value yourself? Because there is a very particular way of doing things, and the Venus in Virgo can have a difficulty finding love, and unless they find it late. And she has appeared to have found the better relationship later in life. Usually the early relationships with the Venus Pluto tend to be rocky and difficult, you know.
Right.
So I think you would look at those 3 opposing planets, Deborah, in the light of how they are affecting the inner wounding of the spiritual Chiron. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah.
Wasn't she born on she must have been born on a full moon.
Yeah,
The
27,
the
27.
moon, yeah, exactly. Full moon.
Oh yeah, the full moon occurred 18 minutes after she was born.
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, the full
get much
moon
closer.
lifetime is it's like you're here to culminate. Let me pull up her 12th harmonic. We looked at it earlier, and I think we saw some.
Heard that she
intriguing
may
things.
have felt ignored by her parents because they were both professionals, so she may not have gotten, the warm and fuzzy love and home that she needed, which made her feel unloved because her mother was obviously from India, her father from Jamaica.
We could see that here, Erica. The moon opposing Uranus. Maybe there was some like instability with the nurturing, instability with the,
with both parents,
with,
because the sun and the moon can be equated with mother and father.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And they could have passed on their own experiences to her of how they were treated based on where they came from and the color of their skin and everything. So she would have absorbed that. Had to be hard
Saturn
for-
is also the father.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly, Deborah. I
Right.
just wanted to include the moon as representation there
Mm-hmm.
for mom.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're absolutely right.
so in this chart, we got Neptune at the top. And
In the sign of Libra, which is about justice,
Yep.
and the lawyer shines through.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it opposes her Mercury in Aries, which, you know, in this lifetime, I think it just serves her so well as far as she can debate, she can absolutely be very, very quick and sharp with when she needs to be. When she needs to be.
Yeah, as I
Well, her
saw this
Venus, her
earlier,
Venus there is in Scorpio. Yeah. I'm sorry.
no worries, no worries. As I looked at
Okay.
this earlier, I thought, oh, Neptune in Libra, that seems in some ways so airy-fairy to go ahead and be kind of soft on justice. But then there's that Aryan nature of the Mercury that rushes in. And it seems like what a perfect position for a T-square to have Jupiter in Capricorn really trying to steady the course, ride the tried and true, pay attention to good sound thinking, build your argument from a wide angle lens, and really make sense of like, where is the thinking too rushed with Mercury, where is the thinking too flexible with Neptune, and boom, there's a wonderful judicious opinion that comes out with that Jupiter Capricorn, and practically on the ascendant.
Oh yeah, yeah. We don't see, well, we have Uranus opposing. I was going to say we see the very sort of the opposite of JD. I don't want to compare them both, but the value.
Well, you can contrast them.
Yeah, the values in this chart are very different.
You see where this person stands.
Yeah. And I get the feeling she stands for more of what's right, justice, and even just the overall well-being of the community, of more of people, the collective.
And the Eris is in that 7th house, conjoining the South.
Yeah.
So there has been lifetime after lifetime of awareness of the importance of justice.
Mm-hmm.
And would I be wrong in seeing that Neptune up there? What was it in Pisces? That she can see from the distance, like the 50,000 foot level, or maybe the so many light years level, like the really, really broad picture. Like she can put it all together. I don't know. I'm just wondering. Although I know Neptune is also fogginess, but
right. But it's a high ideal when you put it up at the midheaven.
yeah, thank you. That's what I was trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. That which goes to the top is very powerful of focus.
Yes. Should we look at her solar
It happens
return?
to be in Libra, and that's where the fogginess gets into play with the manifestation.
Okay. Good.
I'm going to bring up her solar return and I had to, the reason I'm bringing up these solar returns is because they happen to have birthdays that are kind of around the corner, and it's such a critical time for them. I also have been I've been really into solar returns in the last couple of years. I just think they can be so accurate in terms of telling us the themes of the year. And when I go back and look at other years, my past years, people in my life, they tell the story. They may
And
not.
if you're going to have such important information, to have August birthdays with November elections, they're well anchored into their solar return by the time the election comes along.
Yeah. So again, I had to kind of assume she's in Washington, D.C. She may not be there, but let's just go with it. And the first thing I noticed is that Pluto is in her first house. It's opposing Mars, and that's a
Warrior energy.
Yeah. She is going to, whatever happens with Kamala, she has the grit to handle this stuff, but it has not been easy, and it probably will continue to not be easy for her. We know that that you don't need to know astrology to know that. But this will definitely be a year that is going to test her resolve, and let's hope it is for the good of the country. So the sun.
I've only heard that she has been shy, on television. She hasn't been shy in the courtroom, but that she's worked that all out because she had an early second Saturn return, and she's kind of turned the corner on that, and she's come into her strength.
Nice. So her Saturn return was at least a year and a half ago. She's comfortably in that, and she'll be more and more comfortable. Like, Rick D tells us, your real work begins after your second Saturn return. Depending on your mission, I feel like she's definitely just in some ways getting started. She's seasoned, she's experienced, but I think she's really just getting started.
And to speak to her ability to communicate in public, still quiet with Mercury in Scorpio, but in the 10th house.
Yeah.
So the communication is going to be public, but it's going to be well thought out, constructurally sound. That would be the likelihood.
Right. When Scorpio energy is used well,
for communication, it's used with authenticity.
yes, it's used with authenticity. It's sure of itself, and it's no bullshit. It lacks bullshit because it is, Scorpio that is not real in every aspect. It's just not, it usually ends up disliking themselves, and there's something not right inside. So
also for her public presence, she has Venus in the 11th, giving with the Sagittarian sign, that suggests a real easygoing, comfortable, and a position where it would find appeal. She would have luck there because that's one of the benefits. And the other benefic is Jupiter. It happens to be in the 6th house in Gemini with communication for this year.
Yeah.
In work.
Yeah.
What about that moon Saturn? Is that a trine?
Saturn, no, that's a square.
That's a square.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
And
that
it's
how do you
actually
read
that
that?
Saturn is in T square loosely because of Venus.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can get away with a little wider orb with the moon to Venus because the moon has such a powerful effect, but it's almost looking like a T-square.
the moon and Saturn in a square like that, we know she's going to be scrutinized. She's going to be really, could potentially feel like she's out there on her own. Really a year of, she's being asked to even grow up on a bigger level, mature, toughen up emotionally, because she's gonna have to. If she's gonna, even as VP, you have to be able to take the blows that are gonna come at you, and there's gonna be plenty of them. So I think, like I said to Rick earlier, you need each solar return is I think in some ways you can't control it. First of all, you could only play the best cards you get dealt, and it's preparing you. She's getting prepared. I think, do we have Rick with us? Rick D. There he is. Let me bring up the natal chart. Is that what you want, Rick?
You're still muted, Rick.
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm not used to being on this end. A couple things. To me, after you do so many of these charts, everything comes down to the 12th harmonic. And her 12th harmonic, she's got skills out the wazoo, but is she real? Okay. Not only is she real, the second question is, what happens when a Libra asks that question? As a double, is she real?
Mhm.
You'll see in the 12th harmonic, if you don't mind putting that up. The 12th harmonic, you'll have to repaste it. Yeah, that's why I use that monitor. Notice that she's only 2 weeks, her solar return is only 2 weeks before the election. And her sun, moon, Saturn is extremely strong. But the question in her chart is, what's that Jupiter doing? You talked about Jupiter, but that's tremendous amount of pressure on the Jupiter because it's coming from angular Neptune and angular Mercury. And Jupiter is in its fall in the sign of Capricorn. So it's a tough place to handle it. Now, yourself, put us on the regular screen, please. Yourself, the comedians are getting themselves very prepared, looking in to the mirrors, get going. Hey, 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 hey. She does it all the time. Let alone the fact that she's an opponent to the GOP.
Mhm.
Okay. They're going to just go to town on her being a phony. I'm not saying she is, but that's what they're going to use against her. So that's her constant test here. This is not a test of her running this country. This is a test of her solving her spiritual challenge.
Mm.
Her spiritual challenge is number one here. And as she goes, the country goes. So we're going to be tested with her as president, if she is. We're going to be tested as to whether we're going to become real with our own spirituality. That's why she's in the position. I'm not going to say any more about what I think her chances are because I don't think that's fair. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we have with JD, you said something along the lines of he's a representation of where we are right.
Right. Right.
We're not here.
Personification.
Personification. Yep. of the lack of clarity of our values. And
With him, it's lack of heart.
right,
He is Trump's hatchet man.
yes,
He's Trump's hatchet man. That's why he was picked, period.
So essentially not on substance.
Oh, you think Trump's gonna worried about substance? This
He was-
kind of substance, maybe.
and it, it doesn't feel like Trump has chosen somebody that is an equal. It has to be somebody that he feels is like,
Yeah, it's got to be
you're over there and I'm up here.
subservient. That's right.
Yeah.
And this is true. I mean, you can't be blind here. This is the good guys against the bad guys. It just is.
Yes, yes. John, do you want to say anything? It's great to have you. You don't have to. I'm just wondering if you've got anything you want to add.
Thanks, Claudia. If you can give me like 5 minutes, I might be able to chime in.
Get in there, John.
Okay. I'll be right
I'm
back. I'm
enjoying-
listening. I'm
enjoying
just
the
not
night
in a
off.
place where I can
Yes.
respond. But yeah, give me like 5 minutes. I can chime in. Thank you so much, Claudia. Good to
All
see
right.
you too, Greg.
Yeah. Leslie, it's good to see you. It's been a little bit. So obviously, I don't know. I don't think we have time to do Simone and Taylor, but I do want to hear from anybody else that wants to chime in on the on either person or either charts, really, because it's kind of the focus. Not all
I
at
just
once,
wanted
don't
to say
overwhelm me.
one little point about that Mercury and Scorpio in the 5th house.
Yeah.
A creative surgeon with her knife verbally.
Mhm.
Very fine surgery.
Oh, yes, yes.
She has prosecuted some of the toughest criminals out there.
And
know
that is
what?
very insightful as your observations of the placement of the Scorpio Mercury in the 5th. Very nice.
Let's look at this, because I like to look at this one. The 6th harmonic. And it's
Oh boy.
Again, we see a big deal in the midheaven area.
Oh,
Eris. No wonder the justice is an issue.
right. It always it follows her. Jupiter and Aquarius on the descendant.
Could I make a comment?
I would suggest to you,
Anita, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think she's fabulous. Obviously, she's getting my vote. However, she was a prosecutor. She was a district attorney. She prosecuted tough cases. Yes, she did. She also prosecuted over 15,000 minor marijuana offenses and put those people away. So when we talk about her abilities to do the job, yes, she has that. Prosecutors are allowed to lie. So let's talk about that for a minute. How do we see that playing out in her chart?
again, is she real?
Mm.
What makes you real? What planets make you real? A strong Pluto, a strong Neptune, a strong Saturn in the right place, but not the sun sign in Libra. It's very, very rare that a Libra sun sign is able to get past the shallowness of its own sign. They do it. It does happen. It does happen. And the main reason is they're not concerned about anything beyond society. They're concerned with this society here on Earth. They're not really concerned about that. I'm not saying she can't do it, but
But it's found elsewhere.
yeah, you're right, Rick. She's gonna have her hands full.
Well, hasn't Biden just changed the law so that people who were prosecuted for minor marijuana
Right.
crimes, all of
He-
that is going away? And she is
Yes,
his
he
vice
did.
president.
Yes, I think I hope she gets in front of that topic. I hope she gets in front of the topic of, and it's obviously going to be very difficult to do, of being a prosecutor.
I've actually seen fact checking that said that that was disinformation when she ran from before. That she did not put 14,000 minor marijuana people in prison.
I
So,
hope
I mean,
that's true.
I mean, that what
but-
I'm saying is I think that we need to investigate that more because I've seen
Right,
it.
okay.
I've seen it both ways.
Mhm.
And I've not done any investigation on it, but I'm
Right.
extremely skeptical because that's a lot of people to put in prison.
Well, not as a DA, it's not.
No, I mean, where do you put 14,000 people for minor
Oh.
charges? I mean, where do you physically put them?
Well, that's not a hard argument. That's who's in prison. Prisons are privatized. So finding the right people to put in prison is not hard. It's a money-making process. Clinton did some great things, but what he did wrong was he took the federal government out of prisons. He took the federal government out of even transportation. And it's really become a difficult situation as a result of that. I'm a staunch Democrat, so I'm going against my own when I bring these up, but I mean I like prosecutors. I do know that they lie. They are allowed to lie.
I think Susan wants to say something.
Yes.
Thank you. First of all, a prosecutor prosecutes, a judge sentences. Second of all, if she has a strong Saturn, wouldn't that compensate for the weakness of character potentially or genuineness of a Libra sun?
I don't know if
No.
it's enough.
No,
As I understand the question, I would say yes, it does. Because Saturn, as the Lord of Karma, demonstrates where you have been going, where you've been coming from, and the lessons you're going to go ahead and hammer home because you're still on that path. That's what
The
your life is
Libra-
going to bring forward.
The Libra I grew up under had Saturn conjunct Sun. So that may be a whole different animal, but
that's excellent. Excellent.
okay.
Ask yourself the really high principle people like Eleanor Roosevelt. There's a Libra for you. You'll find a few Libras that up in the higher echelons, but look at their charts and ask yourself why. It's not the Libra that's doing it. Libra does a lot of really nice things down here at the social level, but it's always the Jupiter Neptune. It's always the Jupiter Neptune that inspires people to go outside the church and mix with the people. Now, she's really good. She's really good at manipulating society. She's really good, but how much of it is real? Also, what's the difference? Whether it's real or not, because what politician is?
Yeah, that's true. John, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, just my experience, like I've been watching all the energy as we've seen it, the Southern Third with Biden stepping back and then endorsing her and all. I am, just my hot take is that I think this is the Pluto and Aquarius energy finally coming in. Like, I think we've been looking for it, and it's like the
Good,
suddenness of like,
good
boom,
point.
here's
Yeah.
Kamala. Yeah, and I think, looking at the flow of things, we know Pluto's retrograde right now. It's going to dip back into Capricorn briefly, but when we look at election day, Pluto's going forward. It's in forward motion. It's still at 29 Cap, but it's looking ahead into Aquarius. I don't know how the election's going to go. I mean, I know who I'm voting for, but I feel strongly like this is literally the whole time I've been looking for the old and the new. We know who represents the old. We know it's Trump. We know he's looking back. He wants to take us back into the past with Project 2025 and all that. Kamala has brought in the new energy. Look, all the energy around her, the young people engaged. Like, I mean, young and old, really, like those of us who are forward looking. So this really is a battle of the ages that we're in. I think it's going to be a very decisive election, and clearly we can see we're in a battle between the old, which is Pluto and Capricorn, represented by Trump and the Republicans, and the new, which is Kamala Harris and the Democrats. And those of us who do see the United States has to revitalize itself, or it's going to die.
Yeah,
That's a choice that's at stake right now.
exactly right.
Amen.
That's exactly what Susan said last time, that the balance, the people vote to make the balance come back to where it should be.
Right.
And that hit me when she said that.
It's going to be wild, everybody.
I think it's going to be very interesting to see
Wow.
who the Dems pick as a VP. I think that's going to have a lot to say about how things go.
Well, if it's anytime
I
soon,
agree.
that can be next week's show.
They said August 7th. By August 7th, she'll
Has,
pitch her
has
vice
Milwaukee
president.
has Milwaukee survived?
Has Milwaukee survived? Oh yeah, I was at the Harris rally
Oh, you
2 days
were?
ago. Oh yeah.
Wow.
And I was with two women who were extremely excited because they relate culturally and ethnically to Kamala. So it was just beautiful energy to be with them at that rally. But yeah, the place was on fire. It was in a school gym. It was not comfortable, but it was raucous. And
Wow.
that fire that they're talking about,
Yeah.
it's real. It's real. I mean, it was hot, it was humid. We had to stand in line and give our driver's licenses to get in. Then we had to go through metal detectors and blah, blah, blah. Then we had to sit for a long time. But whoa, once she walked in the room, it was electric.
And that's really intriguing, Rick, because we kept seeing with the solar returns for the USA and with the charts for the new year, we kept seeing bucket patterns to the planet Mars.
Mm-hmm.
We kept seeing this the last month or so. And I kept saying to myself, that's kind of unusual that a personal planet would be at the point of this T-square, but it is. It's just the boss out there. And what does Mars mean? You're real good talking about Mars, Rick.
It is the
what
energy
is an
that you put your
amplified
chart
Mars?
towards.
What's an amplified Mars all about?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What is an amplified Mars all about?
It is your life force. So
What's it mean collectively?
Oh, collectively, where are we all going? What are we putting our collective energy to?
Yes. That's exactly it.
Well, it has an arrow. It has
It
an
does.
arrow.
Where
Yeah.
are we going? Where are we going?
Going the right way.
And what's the,
Pointing to everything on the right.
and what's the symbol of the patriarch? Mars.
Yeah.
And that's coming down. So it's just great. It's going to be crazy, everybody.
It's gonna be crazy for a while. It's gonna be crazy for a while.
For years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, there was some things that happened in terms of the internet and you know, things going down, people stuck on the ground because of the, you know, the communications, the internet, and then Mount Etna is exploding, and then they had the, you know, Yellowstone, that geyser. So like the Earth is
Even the
releasing
Earth,
steam
yes.
as well, feeling that Mars.
Exactly.
Uranus.
Absolutely. So, hey, I know Rick has asked this before, but I want to ask it again because I think it's always worth asking. What do you all want to hear? What do you all want to do a show in the future about? That would be great. If you do have anything, email Rick, let us know here. We have ideas all the time, also with just the climate, you know, the climate of the world. I think it's still worth looking at. We definitely still need to look at Simone and Taylor because they're exceptional people, and exceptional people have exceptional charts.
And you two do a fine job.
There's a
Thank you.
beautiful Neptune,
You both do a really good job.
there's a
It's
Neptune
not easy.
documentary called I Am Rising about Simone Biel, which
Oh,
I
I saw it last night.
And did you know when she backed out? Remember when she
Yeah.
backed out years ago?
Yeah.
It was I knew it was Neptune. It was Neptune going exactly opposite her sun. She wasn't sure of herself. She backed out, which is the smart thing to do. When it got out of the way, she came forward again.
Yes.
I would
Oh,
love
she-
to see a show just on Saturn. Saturn returns, Saturn transits, all of
Yeah.
that.
That's a very good idea. We'll pick up Taylor and who's the other one?
Simone Biles.
Simone Biles.
And we'll get another shot on another evening with those two.
Yeah,
Probably,
absolutely.
probably next week, okay?
All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Stay safe.
Thank you. You guys are wonderful.
enjoy
Right.
the
Thank
opening
Thank you,
ceremony.
Claudia. Thank you,
Thank
Rick.
you.
Thank you,
all.
Rick.
Good
Good to see
night.
you all.
Ceremonies for
Thank-
the
Many
Olympic
blessings.
Sweet
tomorrow.
dreams, everybody. Sweet
Bye,
dreams.
Good night.
Leslie.
Thank you.
Love you all.
This was
Bye.
really
Love you
great.
all.
Thank you.